and say we're better off this way.
The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the K-Ghost Radio Network and its website are those of the host, guest, and participants, and they are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcast, management, or advertisers of the network. The show is found under LJA Broadcasting Network. UFO Talk Radio can, but does not necessarily promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and they are not intended to treat or diagnose and or claim to cure any disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. All music is purchased and owned by LJA Broadcasting.
I got the windows rolled down, got the radio up, and I'm heading out of Vegas tonight. And it's a 1:30 on a 4-day run, and the desert is a welcome sight. I can see you there in that dress you wear, and it's keeping my foot on the gas. I drink a gallon of Joe just to make it back home and hold you in my arms and laugh.
Are you ready? What you are about to experience is real. Right along with us. From deep in the desert of Nevada, The Glenn Larry Show. From deep in the desert of Nevada, broadcasting to the world, it's The Glenn Larry Show.
I am Glenn Larry, and I want to welcome everybody to the show tonight. We have a real good guest, I'll tell you for sure. Yeah, Mr. Rob Shelsky, and this guy is incredible. He has several books out, and we'll go into that a little later, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in to wherever you may be from, time zone you might be at, and to all my small broadcasters out there, micro broadcasters and late night drivers, ham operators, 73s to you, and to all that's into the silent key, of course, Whiskey 60 Baker. We thank you kindly. And to K6RCL out of Santa Barbara, Goleta area, KBHR 57 AM 60 Alaska. We do thank you so very much for listening. For everybody out there, thank you kindly. And to the folks over there, may I say, Pennsylvania, the Kennett Square area. Of course, it's called the Creekside Diner. I want to thank her very much. Yeah, Karen does a great job. She just supports EMS, and she is just a neat lady. I'll tell you for sure when I was over there, I had a good time, I'll tell you. And to Station 23, all the firefighters in Avondale, hello. And at Chief Hall, let's say hello to them too. I sent Ken and Doris some stuff, some pins actually, and I never got to them. And apparently the envelope was cut open and someone took the pins. So I'm going to get you some other pins out there, Ken and Doris. Don't you worry about that at all. And as you know, we're on YouTube. We do ask you to like and please subscribe to us and chime in if you would. That'd be great for us. It helps us out, everything we're doing on this program. How was your week? My week was very busy myself. Today was a historical day, kind of sadly to say. In Manhattan, New York, the courthouse, 15th floor, Donald J. Trump. Of course, it's all over the papers. It's all over the news, and we knew it was coming. And, geez, it's a pretty rough thing. 34 counts. We'll see how that turns out. And it just saddens me to see something like this come out for any president. We just don't do that in America. We just don't do that. Other countries do that. We don't do that. But we'll see how it plays off, to tell you the truth. And a lot of stuff out there, as you can see, I'm telling you. And the media is just eating this thing up. I mean, they're just over the top. I'm watching the news, and walking by the newscaster is a guy in an orange jumpsuit with blonde hair and walking past like it was Trump. I mean, what's next? I mean, it's just it's not comical at all, but the wackiness of the folks that do this stuff. How far do you go? Well, I have not heard the speech tonight, although you are probably listening to it. For those that have not listened to the show, which you can get us an archive on K-Ghost Radio, UFO Talk Radio, and of course, you can go to YouTube and iHeartRadio, all that stuff. Look us up on K-Ghost Radio, UFO Talk Radio, Area 51 Talk Radio. It's all there, and you can go back and make sure you also read that donation. Yeah, P.O. Box 19715, Jean, Nevada. It's at JEAN, Nevada, 89019. It's right there. Anything you can send us helps pay the electricity bill. And I'm telling you, it's gone up everywhere. Not only just in my state. I know folks have said, my gosh, my electricity bill is just out of this world. Well, I'll look around you here. It's more than just running a stereo, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. So a lot of UFOs are being seen, a lot in Florida, by the way, in Texas has many. If you have a chance, go to MUFON. Yeah, they have the latest and greatest reports. And if you ever have seen a UFO, do not be afraid. Get a hold of them, fill out the form, or call it in, what have you. Don't even use your real name, but tell them the story, the true story, what you saw. And so they can make a note of that and put that in their records, because we need all that information. It's very important. And if it's something very, very hot, I'm sure that an investigator will come your way, or might, work it out with them, or he can meet you and get the nitty gritty of the whole story. Just unbelievable. I've seen so many myself, and I've had folks on the show. Last week was interesting. Gentleman from Pennsylvania, Ken. Oh, his story's unbelievable. And he saw it up close, and other witnesses. So, yeah, do that for me, please. I do appreciate that. Well, we're getting to the show now. Rob Shelsky, are you with us, sir? Rob, you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, fantastic. Nice to have you, sir. Nice to have you back.
Nice to be back, I'll tell you.
Well, you're a man of many things. Many books out there, and which is, I think, is just totally cool. 62 books and some papers that you've done. The Sky for the Moon is Hollow. Can you name some of those books off for me, please? I've got.
Sure. Quantum Immortality, The Hypersoul and Afterlife, Invader Moon,
right.
For the Moon is Hollow, and Aliens Rule the Sky. Darker Side of the Moon, They Are Watching Us.
They Are Watching Us. That's good.
There's a bunch of them, actually.
Yeah, and you've gone to the UFO side, but you've also gone to the paranormal side, and you've got some real good stuff out there. My local library has your books. That's something.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and
so does mine.
Yeah, well, see how that works. You've got probably a private library too.
The library has a bookshop in Nevada, aren't you?
Yeah, you're here. We got you.
Who knew?
Now your latest thing that you're working on is quantum mortality. What is that all about?
Well, actually, that one is completed and it's published. The one I'm working on right now is The Shadow World, but quantum immortality is the idea that we don't necessarily die when we die. That according to the principles of quantum mechanics, there's a very good chance that when we think we're dying, we may die in this reality, but there'll be another reality where we didn't die. So our life just goes on and on. For instance, you're laying on a bed in a hospital here, you're taking what you think is your last breath, and everyone around you is crying, and you close your eyes, and then you open them up again, and the doctor says, well, it looks like you're going to be okay, or no, you're not going to die now. And that's because in the world of quantum reality, every time you make a choice, if you believe in the many worlds interpretation that a lot of physicists do now, that every time you make a choice or anything in the universe makes a choice, the other choice that could have been made also has to take place. All possibilities have to collapse into realities. And if that's true, and by the way, quantum theory is the most tested scientific theory in the history of mankind.
Yes, it is.
It is the only theory that has been tested as much and as often as it has been and it has always passed with flying colors. So we have no reason to doubt quantum mechanics at this point. Not yet, anyway, unless something comes up. So if that's true, and if the many worlds interpretation is true, then you basically, every time you think you're dead, your soul continues on in a parallel reality. Same people are looking down on you the whole bit. Your same pets are around you. You just don't know the difference, and neither do they. Except in this reality where you did die, to them, you're dead. But to you, if you just jump to another reality, you're not. Now, I know that sounds hard to believe and it's hard to follow, but there's a lot of evidence to presuppose that we might be jumping realities all the time on a daily, minute-by-minute basis and not even aware of it because it's so close to our own.
Really? Interesting.
That's
So
where the Mandela effect comes
Mandela,
in.
exactly.
Residual memories of that.
So if I think I'm dead and I wake up or just open my eyes and the doctor says, well, you've made it this time. It's my second, third time. How would I know which dimension or how many times I've gone through this quantum effect?
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't, because you can't know from one instant to the next. For instance, if I died from a heart attack in the next second in this reality, I would know it because I would then be in a parallel reality where I didn't die of a heart attack. And my life would have been continuous as far as I knew, just going steadily. The heart attack just didn't happen. This reality, it did. The other reality that I'd have to switch to, it didn't. And it's not the only way we may be able to obtain immortality. There's a number of different approaches in science now, and I'm talking science here, not metaphysics, that say that we might be immortal or could be. And there's a number of ways we could do it. For instance, if the universe is infinite, which a lot of scientists think it might be, then eventually it has to repeat itself. Think of a bunch of Lego blocks. Compare these to atomic particles.
Okay.
And every time you put something together with those Lego blocks, you're building something in the form of matter with atoms, same sort of thing. But there's only so many different shaped Lego blocks, and you only have so many. Eventually, it's going to take a long, long time, but you will start repeating what you've already made. And if the universe is infinite, and given the laws of probability, sooner or later, our space, our Earth, our sun, planets around our sun, have to repeat in exactly the same way and also in variations. So if the universe is endless, then there are replicas of the Earth, the solar system, you and me, I don't know how many times repeated throughout it.
Wow.
Because if something's infinite and you have all these probabilities and possibilities, they have to play out. Now, if it's not a possibility, it can't play out. But most things are possible, even the things we think aren't possible. For instance, you might want to put your hand through a wall without breaking your knuckles. You could do it 1 million, 1 billion, 1 trillion, 10 trillion times and not have that hand slide through that wall with no problem. But if you did it long enough, according to the laws of probability, there is a small but definite chance your hand, by sheer circumstance, could slide right through the atoms of that wall and not be disturbed. And sooner or later, that would happen.
My gosh. On these different realities, am I doing the same thing? Like, am I doing radio or am I doing something else? I'm the same person.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Because all of our major forms of cosmology talk about how the universe is formed. If we believe string theory is the means, then we have to believe in multiple realities because it requires it. If we believe in the inflation theory of the Big Bang, which most scientists do, cosmologists, astronomers, astrophysicists, they do believe it, and that requires parallel universes, a multiverse. And if the universe is infinite, it requires a multiverse because, as I said, things repeat. They have to sooner or later. And that means that you have to repeat and I have to repeat. So even though you might be dead in this particular patch of the universe, there would be another identical you, maybe born 1 billion years from now in that area.
Right.
Or maybe 1 billion years ago. But at some point in time, you must exist always. So if you're asking if the soul is immortal, it could well be. Again, it's heavy stuff. But the scientific theories that
very complex.
Yeah. Well, it's complex, but it isn't.
Right.
When you boil it down, it's just a matter of decision.
Right.
It's a decision tree. You can go left, you can go right. You can say yes, you can say no. And if you go left in this universe, another universe forms where you went right. If you say yes in this universe, another universe splits off where you said no.
Right.
It's that simple. If you die in this universe, there's another universe where you didn't die. And the subset of yous could be infinite.
Interesting. Mighty. Could it be
I
possible?
mean, they could be identical to you, but there'll also be variations of you as well. In one universe, you'll be the billionaire. In another one, you'll be a pauper. In another one, you're a murderer. In another one, you're already dead.
Yeah. Like you've just done it. You run out of universes. Who knows? That's interesting.
Yeah, all the probabilities have to play out, you see.
Okay. Hypothetically, let's say, do you think maybe that within these universes, that I'm going to pull in the psychic thing here. I'm going to pull in the metaphysic world a little bit. Do you think that the spirit world can be involved in that somehow, some way? Do you think?
Well, it could be. It could be what we see as ghosts are simply parallel universes. And remember something else. Not all parallel universes are in the same time zone as we are. Some universes formed later but are identical to ours. Other universes formed earlier but are identical to ours. So in some universes you've already lived and died, and in other universes you haven't been born yet, parallel universes. So you could be seeing something from a parallel universe that could be a representation of something that's happening there right now, but happened in America or wherever 100 years ago. For instance, you might see ghosts at Gettysburg. Well, you might be glancing at a parallel universe where that action is taking place right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it probably isn't something like that. It's probably more a matter of what we think of as supernatural as not being supernatural at all, but just an extension of our reality. We can see colors. We see a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. We call it light, and it comes in colors. We don't see down into the infrared, and we don't see up into the ultraviolet to X-rays to microwaves in the other direction. We just don't see this. It doesn't mean they're not there. You walk around your house all the time, and you are flooded with radiation. You've got 5G, 2G, 4G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. It's all there. It's all functioning. It's all real. You just don't know it because you can't sense it. But it doesn't mean it's not normal, not natural, and not there.
Yes. The airwaves are, unbelievable. You can't see them. It's true. And they're thick. I mean.
Yeah, well, and they're different lengths.
Yeah, right.
People wonder why a mesh screen on a microwave door stops microwave radiation. Well, it's simple. The microwaves are simply too long, and the little honeycomb pattern on the door breaks up the microwaves as they try to exit, and so they're harmless to us.
Right.
That's why you always see a steel mesh in the door of any microwave oven.
If it doesn't have one, don't use it. I'll tell you for sure.
Right.
We're going to be right back. Rob will be back after this, please.
You ignore the signs, so you enable.
You don't want to sound like a hypocrite, so you enable.
You don't want to alienate your child, so you enable.
But if you think they're trying drugs, you shouldn't be afraid.
You're the parent.
So you are able.
You are strong,
so you are able. There are others just like you.
so you are able.
And we can help, so you are able.
Get help at drugfree.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America.
Mom, you wanted to talk to me?
The calendar hypnosis into thumbtack cushion, completely tailwind. And sewing elephants plant before cartoon paper cups. So numbers renovate.
If your teenager is trying drugs or alcohol, would you know the right words to use?
Afterward, lightly fish scale. Doorbell.
Find out what to say at drugfree.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America.
Now, stay tuned for more unique broadcasting coming your way. Live with Glenn Larry.
And we are back with Rob Shelsky, and he is the author of many, 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 many books. And you can get these books on Amazon. Rob, what is your website?
Well, I usually just say go to Amazon.
Okay.
But I do have a website. It's robshelsky, .blogspot.com.
And the spelling that last name, make sure we have it right.
Sure, SHELSKY.
Great.
MOUSE. No kidding.
I love your sense of humor, I'll tell you.
It's just Shelsky.
Yeah, Shelsky, that's great. And fascinating books, folks. Well, we're going back to the moon, and that's going to happen big time if we're not already there, if you understand what I'm saying. What do you think about that, Rob?
Well, I'm wondering why we haven't been back before now, or anyone on Earth. Just because we didn't go back, it doesn't mean that other countries couldn't have forged ahead and gone, but nobody did. All of a sudden, it was like the moon was off limits.
Yes.
And that's hard to explain because, the computer on board Apollo 11 had about the capacity of our standard home calculator, pocket calculator. And we have so far gone beyond that now. And we have gone beyond that with propulsion systems and shields and heat-proof tiles and things. So why didn't we go back? If we could go up there with vacuum tube, zinc-plated culture of the 60s, why can't we do it with the microchip culture of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s? Why haven't we been back?
Yes. Yeah.
It's really strange because we have the technology, not just us, but most countries on Earth now, including China, Russia, and Europe.
Yeah. I had heard through several sources that there was some stuff up there once we even got there, that there were others that have been there and in the crater. So
there's evidence there's tantalizing evidence, let me put it that way.
Yes.
Enough astronauts and enough people have commented on this, and there's been reports of the airbrushed pictures and even of some pictures that have been smuggled out from NASA before they were airbrushed. Are they fakes? Are they real? Well, here's where the problem comes in, separating the wheat from the chaff. I have really researched this for almost 20 years now, and I have to tell you, people say, well, do you think the government's lying to us, Rob? Absolutely. Absolutely. Our government, and every other government for that matter, lies to its people.
Yes.
It doesn't want to tell them unpleasant truths.
No.
It doesn't want to tell them state secrets. It doesn't want to tell them technological secrets because they'll give it away. So, yeah, is our government lying about the moon? To some degree, to some level, I'm absolutely positive. Are there aliens on the moon, or have there been? They question. There seems to be some convincing and, again, rather tantalizing evidence that it might just be so.
Right.
The moon's a very weird place. It's a very weird. In fact, one scientist, he was at NASA, said it's easier to theorize the moon doesn't exist than to try to explain how it exists. That's how strange our moon is.
Yes, interesting. My gosh. I watch a lot of stuff. I'm looking at the moon right now. It's nice, big, and bright. It's very bright. It's a full moon tonight, as I can see. And it is the most prettiest thing I've ever seen. Our Earth is much prettier, of course. Big blue marble.
Well, if you like dead worlds, it's really pretty.
Yeah. Very well said there, my friend.
I'm going to step out here and see if I can see the moon.
Yeah.
I'm in North Carolina, you're in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Nevada,
I hope you
right?
Can you see it?
Yep, sure can.
Is it very bright?
We can bright, almost full. You're right.
Yeah. Look full to me.
We have a halo around here. Do you?
I don't have one. I have a clear sky. Very
Oh,
clear.
okay. Well, we're probably going to get rain tomorrow, I think, if I remember. So the halo usually denotes that.
Yeah.
Ice crystals in the atmosphere catching the light.
Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah. It's a strange place, the moon. And it won't always be here. And it used to be a lot closer.
Yeah, it did.
The moon's hardly a static object. It's changing, even though it's dead, supposedly.
Well, it rung like a bell, though, did it not?
Yes, it did. After we took off from the moon, the moon vibrated for the better part of, it depends. On different trips, they measured it different lengths of time. But up to a couple hours one time, and a good half an hour another time. And it shouldn't do that. If it has a solid core, it shouldn't be doing that.
Shouldn't be doing that.
Rock vibrates. I mean, when we have an earthquake, we can check it out with seismographs, and we do with the moon. We left one on the moon. And I have to tell you, that seismograph is acting weird. These waves, seismic waves that go through the moon, go through the crust, but they don't seem to go through the interior. As another scientist at NASA said, it's almost as if the interior were made of something we don't know or isn't there at all.
Interesting. Hollow.
Yeah.
Do you think it was towed there I've heard many folks say it was placed there.
Could be. Its orbit is extremely circular.
Yeah.
I believe it's the second most circular orbit of any object in our solar system, Venus being number one.
Mm-hmm.
And Venus is very strange, too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon's crust is thicker on the side closest to Earth and thinnest on the side farthest away from the Earth. There are no maria, those large, if you're looking at the moon right now, you can see gray areas.
Yeah.
They're called maria. There's like seas of lava, frozen lava. We have them
that.
on the Earth-facing side, obviously. You're looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have them on the other side of the moon.
No, what is on the other side of the moon? Dark side of the moon. That'd be interesting.
Well, it's not the dark side, you know. That's
I know.
a misnomer.
Good album, though.
Both sides of the moon get day and light. We just can't see the other side of the moon
just can't.
because we're tidally locked with it here on Earth. But we can see about 60% because there's vibration with the moon, which means it rocks back and forth on its axis. We get little glimpses of what's on either edge of it every so often that we don't normally get.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that still leaves a good 40, 45% of the moon that we have to rely on cameras and satellites to get pictures of it. So,
and there it is. I'm hoping that what we get out of this next couple of journeys, I don't know. They're talking about the base, a whole bunch of other stuff, and we'll see how far they go with that, of course. But,
well, we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Right.
Someone will have to explain to me why it's taken 50 years to get back to the moon.
Yeah.
It's only 250,000 miles away. We're going on and on about Mars, but Mars, well, depending on where it is in its orbit in relation to Earth, it can be as far as 65 million miles away, which is 250,000. So it's a lot easier to get to the moon. So why do we keep going to Mars, but we don't keep going back to the moon?
Maybe we have to ask somebody if it's okay.
Yeah, I just think we're going to give you the true answer.
Another thing. Okay.
We can't ask anyone.
No.
So I was a member of Mensa.
Okay.
I was a field investigator. I'm sorry, not Mensa, but I was a member of Mensa too. But I was a member of MUFON. I was a field investigator for a couple of years, and you learn a lot that way. They're very scientific MUFON. They really, you have to take a course, you have to pass the test to be a field investigator, and you have to go through a rigorous check sheet. So it is quite involved when you investigate someone that says they've seen a UFO. And
I tell everybody.
Too.
I tell everybody to get involved. I mean, if you've seen a UFO, please report it. I mean, get involved. I mean, I get reports that I get from them.
Well, yeah, we should be giving the data to someone. The only way we're going to learn anything is to collect data. And when we have enough data, maybe we can find some answers.
Correct.
My problem is if there is any sort of thing on the moon, past or present, it puts us in a very difficult position. They've got the high ground, and any military general anywhere in the world will tell you that occupying the high ground is the single most important factor you can do for the military.
Oh, yeah.
They can watch us and probably have been watching us for centuries, and there's nothing we could do about it because we couldn't touch them on the moon. Even now, we would have a hard time. If we wanted to send, say, a nuclear missile at the moon to bomb their base or something, it would take several days for it to get there, and they would see it coming a long time before it got there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like here on Earth where you might be nuked in 15 minutes from the time Russia launches a missile to the time it lands in, say, Chicago.
Right.
But on the moon, it would take several days for it to get there.
Incredible. Now, you've got this new book coming out, and it's called Shadow People. Is that correct? What is the name of your book?
Well, I have one that's fiction, but it's based on the factual book that I'm also writing.
All right.
I just like to get the idea across to younger people sometimes. And, I find young adult fiction is one way to do it. The book that's fiction is Professor Trithemius and the Other World House is the title of it. And it talks about the shadow world, bases the story on that idea. But we've all seen things out of the corner of our eyes, and quite often we just put it down to a leaf on a tree blowing or a bird flying by or just some mundane thing. And quite often that's what it is. But every once in a while, we get something that isn't that way.
Right.
And the shadow people do seem to exist. They do seem to have an effect. You can watch pretty convincing videos of it on YouTube, on the internet, and you can talk to different people. And not only that, but we've all had it.
I've seen them.
I can't believe that you've never glanced out the corner of your eye and thought you saw someone there that when you looked Again, they weren't there. And you thought, oh, just my imagination.
How about them playing peekaboo?
Well, you've got the men in hats, you've got the men in black, you've got the... They do seem to. They seem to be observing us in our houses with us.
They will pop behind a corner and pop out and look at you and go right back real fast. And
and animals react. Dogs, cats react to them.
Yep. Oh boy, yeah.
There was a case where a woman was in her living room, and her dog was in the hallway barking like crazy. She thought at the front door someone was coming home. So she went to look, and the shadow person, and it's on video, you can watch it on YouTube, is leaning out from the kitchen looking at her. And all you see is a shadow. And it ducks back in. Now, she's a brave woman. She got up and she walked in the kitchen and turned on all the lights. The kitchen's a dead end. There's no door out of there. Just a standard little kitchen in an apartment.
Yeah.
There's nowhere that shadow person could have gone.
Right.
And yet it clearly was, and the dog was clearly reacting. And this happens a lot more than you realize.
Yes.
There's another case in Mexico. It shows a family being videoed on their front porch on a dirt road. They're having some kind of a get-together. And whoever's videoing is across the road aimed at the front porch of the house. A car goes racing by. No one thinks anything of it. Of course, it's a car. And then behind it, something that looks sort of like a motorcycle, but is almost virtually invisible, speeds down the road without any sound. Now, the people on the porch didn't notice it. I don't even think the cameraman noticed it. He was just videotaping this thing shot by. But one person on the porch did. They jumped up, they looked to the left where it had shot off, and from their direction.
Right.
And then they walked out and got in the middle of the road and looked down the road and didn't see anything, of course. But what was that?
Yeah.
Now, you can say, well, it's just your imagination. It's a trick of the camera. But we do have invisibility cloaks now that they're working on. And they're getting... I haven't seen any new information on these invisibility cloaks for about 7-8 years. All of a sudden, they stopped talking about it. But a Japanese professor developed a fairly decent invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
It mirrored the surrounding area and it hid you very well, incredibly well.
Can you wear it?
So if we're getting to that point, have others already gotten to that point?
Right.
Or do these creatures exist in a part of our reality that isn't quite our own?
I tend to think that they exist within our reality. I tend to think that they're as real as you and I, and I've seen them. And yeah,
I think they're real too. And it's a personal opinion on my part, but again, I've been researching it. And I think the evidence suggests very strongly that there is something there.
I don't know what they
call it normal or supernatural, but
whom they
I think
are.
it's natural.
Right. Yeah, I think so also. I'm going to open up the lines and hopefully get some calls on this, because I think if you want to talk about this, folks. Oh, by the way, I'll remind everybody, in about 2 weeks, I have a galactic whistleblower, Space Cat. She'll be on. And with some other galactic folks. That's going to be an interesting show in a couple of weeks. So remember to tune in for that. So let's take some calls here. I'm going to put out the number. Ross, you out there? Give me a call.
To talk with Glenn Larry, deep in the desert of Nevada, lines are open at 1-702-874-1114. That's 702-874-1114. Now, here again, Glenn Larry.
Yes, and I think we should give the prompt line out too.
The rump lines are open at 775-990-8275. That's 775-990-8275.
Oh, yes, we're back. Lines are open, everybody. One more time for you. Here we go.
To talk with Glenn Larry, deep in the desert of Nevada, lines are open at 1-702-874-1114. That's 702-874-1114.
All right. Yeah, they are there. I've seen them several times in a dark house, but where there was light going through the kitchen windows, and this figure popped out and looked around and looked at us and popped back real fast, and several times. And we took our flashlights and turned it on the kitchen. There was nothing there, of course, but we had to wait quite a longer time for it to do it again. it's like we ruined its energy or something. I don't know how that works, but it took a while for it to start doing that again. Now,
well, it seems that they are allergic to light. The minute you switch lights on, they seem to vanish utterly.
Right.
Now, why that is, I don't know. Is it part of their cloaking capability? Is it part of their natural physical ability? Are they only partly in our reality and partly out of it?
There you
it's
go.
Hard to say, but there seems to be a constant barrage of this sort of thing going on.
Right.
To the point where a lot of people are actually scared. And they don't know what it is. Some associate it with death, some associate it with ghosts. I don't think it's ghosts in the normal sense of the word. These things seem to be actively interested in us, peeking at us, I should say, and always sort of disappearing out of the corner of our eyes. Now, sometimes are we just misjudging a play of light or a curtain waving? Yeah, of course, probably most of the time. That's probably quite natural, but not all of the time, any more than you can say that everything you see in the sky, it turns out to be a bird or a plane or a drone or a hot air balloon. I've personally seen 2 different UFOs in my life, and I can tell you what they're not. I can't tell you what they are. I don't know what they are. I know they weren't helicopters, they weren't jets, they weren't planes of any sort, they weren't drones, because the 2 I saw were before drones became popular. And on 2 different occasions, one in San Diego, one here in North Carolina. But yeah, these things exist. And just because modern science has a hard time quantifying it, and that's the problem. Some things aren't really quantifiable as much as they're qualifiable.
Right.
I'm beginning to think UFOs, shadow people, this sort of thing, tends to fall into the qualifiable category rather than quantifiable. Because I don't think, I'm not even sure if I said that right. Is there such a word as quantifiable?
Well, I haven't heard of that, but it's working for me, though.
Quantifiable. Yeah.
It's working for me.
Yeah, it's...
I'm getting it.
I mean, we may not be able to add 2 and 2 and get 4 with a UFO, but we know they exist. We know they interfere with our airplanes. We know they interfere with people. We know they cause damage. We know they cause injuries, and we know they cause death.
Yes.
So are they real? Yes. What are they? I don't know.
And we know that they can take us.
Yes. And apparently they take a lot of people and don't return them.
Yeah.
The average disappearance of Americans permanently in the United States, not counting murders, kidnappings, that sort of thing, is about 60,000 a year permanently disappeared, according to the FBI. I came up with my own statistics that I worked on, and I came up with more like 50 to 55,000. They're saying 60.
Yeah.
Now, in Australia, one year, they lost 25,000 people. Their population around, last time I checked, around 25 million.
Amazing.
That's a huge number.
That's amazing.
The Alaska Triangle, 16% of the population of Alaska over the last 30 years has disappeared in the Alaska Triangle, never to be seen again. Neither them, their equipment, or anything else that they had with them.
Yes. The Nome, Alaska thing.
A triangle up in Vermont. I mean, so I don't know what kind of world we live in, but I'll tell you this: it's a weird world.
Well, if there's a black hole on our Earth somewhere, some porthole or what have you, where these people are going, are being taken from these crafts or aliens, abductions, gosh, and a lot of it could be just, some murders and what have you, but not, these statistics are too high for that.
Well, according to the FBI, they're discounting murders. They're discounting one parent stealing the children from the other parent, that sort of thing, kidnapping.
Yeah, I can get that, but that's a lot.
Some 96% of those are other parents taking the kids. They're not being abducted by strangers. But if they're the ones discounting murders and stuff and saying these are just permanently disappeared, they don't know how or why, because they said they can't get the people back to ask. Now, where are these people going? Yeah. Now, we know that people get abducted, supposedly, some 1.5 million claim it, by alien craft, and then are returned after being experimented on or probed or whatever. But these other 60,000 a year from America are disappearing permanently. If any fraction of that is going off with an alien species, never to return, where are they going?
Yeah, where are they going? I hear of stories.
More importantly, what's happening to those people?
Yeah. I hear more stories about, kids wandering off in the woods, camping, what have you, and they disappear. And then they're found 2 days later, like way, miles and miles away. And they don't remember how they got there.
Shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of winter, they won't have their shoes. They don't know why.
Right. Or they're dressed funny.
Nor can they remember. If they find them alive, they can't remember what happened to them ever.
Right.
There was one, I think, that said there was some strange looking people that came and got him, but that's the only one I can remember actually remembering anything.
Right.
And of course, quite often they're found dead or they're not found at all.
Yeah. Jeez.
And these incidents and cases that go on, and they're everywhere from Mount Shasta in California to the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, recently.
And we can't account for why that is. There was a case of that one scientist with his son and dog going into the Sahara Desert. There's an area there that's like a vile vortex, like a devil's triangle sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he went there on purpose because nothing lives there, not even insects. He wanted to find out why. He drove in there with his son. Their dog was in the car. They'd had the dog several years, perfectly fine dog. He got out. The kid didn't want to get out, and he wants to walk off into the desert a little ways just to see if he could spot any life, if insects or otherwise. So he got out. About 5 minutes later, he heard a lot of barking coming from his car. So at first he ignored it, figured the kid was playing with the dog, but it got worse, and it sounded alarming to him somehow. The tone of it changed. So he ran back to the car. He found that the dog had viciously attacked his son and killed him. And he opened the door to get to the dog and his son, and the dog jumped out of the car, ran off into the desert, and he never saw the dog again.
Something
and he can't account for what happened.
Possessed that dog. Something made that dog do that. They found the dog.
Something in that area is inimical to human life or any kind of life, apparently.
Right. Doesn't want it. Unbelievable.
Now, that's not paranormal.
No.
Excuse me. That's normal because it seems to be a living part of our world and a deal that goes on with it.
Yeah.
The Devil's Triangle off the coast of China, the Bermuda Triangle off the coast of America, the Bennington Triangle in Vermont. We've got the Alaska Triangle in Alaska. I mean, it's 16. We're talking 16% of an entire population disappearing in 30 years without any hint of what happened to them or how. How is that even possible?
That's just those are just unbelievable numbers. I didn't know that was that high.
Yeah.
God,
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's very amazing, very shocking. Well, there's all sorts of stuff going on, like we discussed earlier. But I'm going to do a little message out here real fast to remind everybody about the Pioneer Saloon. That's where I live up here. It's 1913 when it's built. It's been around for a long time. So is my house, by the way. But up here in Good Springs, Nevada, Friday nights, they have, of course, karaoke, Saturday and Sunday music. And that Old Man Liver whiskey is pretty good, I'll tell you for sure, Rob. I had that with a couple of friends of mine the other day. It was pretty good stuff, you know. Well, I'm not much of a drinking man, but I could be, you know, pretty good tasting stuff. But they have good food down there.
Karaoke when you're drinking?
I do once in a while. And but I'll tell you, I do the impressions, I guess. I don't know Elvis for you.
Quick question. Who's the voice on your announcements? He's got a nice deep voice. How did you do that?
That is Ross. Ross had done a lot of things for Art Bell and other folks, you know, and very well known. Was hard to get a hold of him, but once we connected, everything worked out just fine. And great man.
I thought he sounded familiar. I thought maybe I'd heard him in movie trailers or something because he has that kind of tone and voice and measure, you know.
Yeah, he's done Coast to Coast and some other stuff, and Rogan
Wish
Show.
You could talk like that. I mean, I wish I could.
Deep in the desert, yeah. I do too.
I talk in head tones. I can't talk like that. It would be cool if I could.
Yeah, he is so talented, and what a nice guy. He's on KHO, I think it is, in Reno. Has his own morning show from 5 to 9. And in fact, I just ask Alexa, please give him that. I get that station, and I listen to the news up there in Reno. And it's just pleasant to listen to that type of radio show because you don't hear him anymore like that. AM radio that flows and you got a good voice to listen to and fun stuff to listen to. He's a great guy, really is. Yeah. But yeah, if you get a chance, do stop the Pioneer Saloon. They're friends of mine. Great help, good people. And I'm telling you, they've helped the station out also. I just want give them a little plug there. Why not, right? I'm going to open the lines up again, and we need some callers. Oh, you got to ask Rob some stuff. Yeah.
To talk with Glenn Larry, deep in the desert of Nevada, lines are open at 1-702-874-1114. That's 702-874-1114. To call UFO Talk Radio, the Glenn Larry Show, deep in the dark desert of Nevada, call 702-874-1114. North of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. West of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. And south of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. And east of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. First time callers, call 702-874-1114. And if you just want to talk to the Glenn Larry Show, call 702-874-1114.
I hope you all got that. I mean, that's just blatant. That number you can remember. Little tongue-in-cheek there, Rob. What do you think?
I think it's pretty good.
Kind of fun.
It makes me want to go to that place and have a drink.
Yeah.
I used to live in Sparks, Nevada for a very short time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a cool place.
As my home base when I was traveling full-time for 3 years.
Wow. So now...
Yeah, it's worth doing. I did Mexico, and I went to the Zone of Silence. Oh, man.
You did?
It's weird. Go to the Zone of Silence.
I've not heard about that place. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I heard of the Zone of Silence.
I've heard of it. No, I have heard of it. And I've never been there, but interesting.
Well, radio does cut out. I can tell you that for sure, because the minute I drove into that area, about 1 mile in, my radio stopped working.
Everything.
My phone stopped.
Your cell
yeah,
phones?
It's a very eerie place.
Wow.
And
Dead
it has
zone.
eerie things have happened. Meteors keep landing there. They don't know why, including an American missile. It went off course, traveled 1,400 miles, and crashed in the desert. The American forces went in and snatched it up and took it back.
Wow.
I believe with the Mexican authorities' approval. But you can still go to the site where it supposedly crashed, or some people think it was a UFO, a spaceship that crashed.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Again, plants mutate there, strange things happen there, stuff doesn't work. Even airplanes flying overhead lose control of their controls. It's not the nicest place to be, I guess.
It's like Skinwalker Ranch. You familiar with that ranch?
Well, I don't know how much of Skinwalker Ranch is real and how much of it's hype, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've really been looking into that. That was one of my problems with MUFON. I backed out of MUFON because they had a change of how they did the board of directors. And basically, if you donated enough money, you got to be on the board, is my understanding. I may be wrong about that, but my state director told me that. And the problem was the people that were getting on the board were more pop culture people rather than serious
researchers.
UFO.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them was, one of the members was a woman who claimed to be channeling a 60,000-year-old alien who had died. I don't know. I mean, maybe she is. I don't know. But I have to say this. If I'm a science-oriented kind of guy,
right.
If you can't provide me with some reasonable evidence, even if it's only tantalizing tidbits, then I can't go with it. And since the only one who vouches that this is true is her, I need some other corroboration before I can accept that as true.
Okay. Yeah, I could get that. The validity of whoever is doing what in what position is going to be interesting. See how that flies, how that goes. I have I've met a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people about UFOs. And I've talked to folks that said they're 200, 300 years old and what have you. And interesting tale of UFO. It's pretty interesting stuff. And, of course, this is what this show is all about. I'll take your calls, and I want to hear your stories. And that's what it's all about.
I'd like to hear a little about shadow people. I'd like to hear what some people, has happened with them when they've called in, because I only have what I've researched and what's happened with me, but it's always interesting to add to the database, and especially if it's like one of the men in hats that some people see.
Yeah,
And,
then the round
and
hat.
they're comparing that with the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Who are these shadow people? Are they real? Are they just is there a fantasy? There's certainly a worldwide fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't forget,
worldwide.
The human race, long history of believing in fey individuals, what we consider paranormal or magic. I mean, every race on Earth has stories and histories and tales of all sorts of other kinds of life. Gnomes, pixies, elves, leprechauns, call them whatever you want to. People claim to have seen these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are we all seeing the same thing and giving it a different name? Quite possible. The Mothman, we call it the Mothman here in America, but in England, in Cornwall, they call it the Owl Man, and he's been around for several centuries there.
Right.
So it just depends on, are these things all the same thing that we're seeing?
Yeah.
And if we are, what are they, and why are they here, and why don't we normally see them?
Rob, I think we have a caller. A couple rules. No bad language. And first-time caller, fine. And do turn your radio down. I can hear us in the background there. You can do that for us, please. And what's your name and where you from?
I'm calling from Las Vegas.
Okay, Daryl.
Glenn, I do listen to your show. Try to catch as much as I can, but this is a real interesting show. You're with your guest tonight.
Well, thank you.
I did want to call in. I want to comment on this shadow people. Or I do have a little backstory here. I've got two boys, and they there was a time. Right now they're in high school, but when they were around 8 or 9, they used to have a friend.
Okay.
That they would see, and they always call him the Black Man.
Oh.
And I just thought it was one of these imagination, kids with their imagination, or imaginary friend, or this type of thing. And they used to call the Black Man, and we had it in the den, and it was always they'd always seem to want to talk to this imaginary friend, and I used to always just play along with it. When I would say, where is the Black Man?
Right.
And they'd always say he was in this one corner all the time. And on several occasions, the den, we used to keep it as like a playroom, and the boys would play in there, and they had their toys and whatnot. And it was later when they got older. I made the den my office, but when they were younger, and several occasions I walked in there, and in that corner there was somewhat of a shadow that I would see when I first walked in, and it would be gone. And it's not like the shadow, not a shadow like a movement shadow, more of a shadow of a dark in the corner, and then it would envelop upon itself. If it makes any sense.
It would get bigger?
It would get smaller. Whenever I walked in, the shadow would slowly go in on itself, as opposed to a shadow walking away or moving to the side or something.
Right.
And I always found that peculiar, but always in one area of the den, And it did creep me out a little bit.
Rob, on the caller, we have Rob on the line here. Of course, you listen to the
show.
Hey,
Rob, I've been listening to your show. Really interesting stuff that you got today.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if shadow people aren't two-dimensional. The way he's talking about how it collapsed in on itself, and in all the videos I've seen, and it's like they become just a normal pool of shadow in the room if you look at them closely in bright light. We were saying that earlier, that when the lights are on, they seem to vanish. And the way he's talking, it sort of sounds like that. Did he have any kind of major fear reaction or worry for his children?
Caller?
I did to a certain point. One of the strangest things is I go over to that area in the corner. It was always this same area in the den. The kids play with me. That's what we called it there. And it was always in the same area. When I say shadow, when I think of a shadow, I think of a shadow. When you're outside, you see the shadow of a figure or something like that. And it really wasn't. It was more of like a glob of some point. I couldn't really make out a head or anything like that. Just a glob. And then I would walk in the room, and that glob would kind of slowly dissipate on itself, and not quick to the point where I could catch it. So it would almost make me think, was it there or not? It kind of, because if it just darted off, I'd be like, wow, what is it? You could, your mind would say something is there, or if a black, a mask just immediately disappeared, your brain would just, would tell you, oh, what the heck was that? It was almost, it just dissipated on itself. Almost, I don't want to, kind of slow, I guess, to the point where I questioned, was it really there? But it happened so many times. And I tell you, the most peculiar thing was that there was, when I saw very more dark than normal, I'd go over there and I could have swore it smelled like ammonia smell.
Wow.
So I don't know if that has, if that has a residue. To me, but after about maybe 5 seconds, I thought my mind was playing tricks. Like I didn't smell anymore. And I looked at my kid, and the kids are laughing. They're laughing at me.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because they have these little, these are little. It's time they're little kids, and they, we have little desks in there, and they, did their work, and and they would put these desks in the corner, facing the corner.
Right.
Like we used to put them out on the side, and they would move them like that corner was the teacher. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. And I used to put the desk back and back to where they were along the wall, and whenever they go in there, it was time to do some draw, maybe some kind of schoolwork or a schoolwork, but these workbooks we used to get for them, or they would draw or crayons. They always put their desks in both of them facing that corner.
Interesting.
Strange.
Rob,
I never heard any sounds or anything. Never sounds. Only the kids, and the kids didn't. They weren't afraid or anything. I'd hear them and they're laughing, and it got to be one of those normal thing. Like they would be in there and laughing and talking, and it was just a normal thing for them to be carrying on in there. Sometimes by themselves, or sometimes they'd be by them individually or together.
How old were the kids then?
They're about 7.
About 7. And
yeah, about 7.
Is this still happening?
No, they're in high school now.
High school. Okay.
They're in high. This happened to they're in high. It was like 10 years ago.
And they don't see that again. They don't see any of that stuff anymore.
I know that I bring it up and I go, you remember, I said, you remember Mr. Black? You guys, we don't live in that house anymore. And I said, you remember Mr. Black? You used to always talk to you over at the Island Dawn. Island Dawn's the name of the street.
Yeah.
And Island Dawn house. And then they'd always say, yeah, I remember something like that, but very vague. Like was your I used to say your imaginary friend. I used to just call him imaginary, and they would say, yeah, they vaguely remember it. And I go, I used to ask them, are you scared? And no, I was never scared,
Rob, Rob, have you heard of anything like this before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
What I'm wondering is, what was his reaction? Did he feel like it was a ghost-like thing, or did he just think it was something abnormal or strange?
I did not. I didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't think it was a ghost because this house is brand. This is a brand new house. So I used to, as far as I don't know if I'm not an expert in ghosts, but I always understood that, there was some residual or something happened in the house,
right.
I don't know. This brand new house, built in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if there was some kind of, no, I didn't get a ghostly, it was only one area and they only interacted with the children. And it didn't scare the children. It didn't, it kind of, in the beginning, it kind of creeped me out. But
well, I'd be
and
creeped
it
out
wasn't like the kids were scared at night to sleep or anything like that.
Okay. So you had a.
But yeah, they, there was times when I'd walk in there, and they had their desk facing that corner.
Yeah. Well,
and they're carrying on and talking and
the shadow person.
And,
being taught.
Pardon?
Being taught by a shadow person.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
They were looking upward. Of course, they're 7 years old. They're looking upward, and I remember them pointing like counting.
Interesting.
Counting and pointing in the air.
Yeah.
And the other one child was pointing with his finger.
Yeah.
The other child had his hand out like he was saying, when like a umpire says, you're safe.
Yeah, right.
Like he uses both hands, but he had one hand and he was back and forth like this, and the other hand was in the other child was almost like he was counting with his finger.
Well, I guarantee you, it's.
I don't.
You moved out of the house.
I chalked it up to like imaginary friend, or siblings, or playing around. I don't.
Who knows? At this point,
but
I'll tell you.
But the shadow. I called because you brought up the shadow.
Thank you.
People, and that's what what I never heard. To be quite honest, I never heard of these shadow people.
Yeah. Well,
but when when your guys brought up shadow, well, that is stress. I'm going to give my story behind this experience that I had with shadow. It's not even a figure. It's more of just an entity or blob of darkness that would dissipate whenever I entered the room or my wife would enter the room.
Well, it's obvious. It's obvious that there is something there. Caller, we got to get going. We're running out of time, and I want to thank you for calling.
Great show. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you kindly, sir. All right. Yes. Well, we're here with Rob. Rob, please give me your you there with me? Oh, he's still got you there. Rob, give me your email address, would you? Email address. I was supposed to shut up by itself, but it didn't do that. See.
Yeah, it's just my name, robshelsky1@gmail.com.
You got that, folks? Yeah. Very simple. And
well, and by the way, if anyone wants to contact me and tell me any of their stories about shadow people, I'd appreciate it. I'd love to listen to them. And in return, I don't mind letting them have a copy of one of my books. It would have to be an ebook of some form, PDF, Kindle, or something like that. But I'd be glad to give them a book as reparation for divulging their information to me.
Oh, that's great. Boy, what an opportunity, folks. There you go. And again, I want to thank you, Rob, for coming on again. It's always a great show when you're on. And all what you got going, all those books out there. That's a lot of books. A lot of books. 62. So 62, 63, 3, 4, 64 probably coming in. That should be my gosh. Anyway, I could go to my library and get them. But I mean, I will buy some because I have a library.
You can go to the library. You can go to your store, right?
Yeah, I have a library of all this type of books, and I love reading late at night. It just gets, it's just fun to read. A lot of people don't read anymore. I don't know what it is, but it's good.
I know, and that's the same because it's other worlds, whether fiction or whatever. You learn if it's nonfiction, you're learning. If it's fiction, you get to go off into another world and another life for a while. You know?
And it sinks in. It really does.
Yeah.
Again, Rob, thank you so very much. And I'll get back.
You have a good night.
I'll get back with you, my friend. Be well.
Okay.
Bye-bye. There you go, folks. An interesting man. We've had him on before, and he's always fun to talk to. And I want to thank you again out there, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Glenn Larry Show. And do on YouTube like us and subscribe to us, please, and chime us. I guess how that works. And gosh, again, look at the website. We are taking donations. It does help the power bill, as I told you before. Again, thank you so very much. I am Glenn Larry, and play well together and be safe. Really be safe. And watch the skies. It's interesting.